This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. In last session, we discussed about props. Now the next very important concept is going to be state in React or React state, whatever it may be. This is one of the mostly people will get some confused here. What is a state? What is a prop? So first, before going to state, I'm telling you the prop. What is a prop? By using prop, we can distribute the data between the component. So for example, you have a parent component. In the parent component, you have some data. This data you want to transfer to subcomponents like so in this I have child 1, child 2, like this I have some other components. To these components, if you want to transfer, definitely we will take data equal to as an attribute. The props are going to be defined as an attribute equal to the data what you want to send to server. This is how we are doing. It simply says that distributing the data between the components. Okay, that is what props. By using props, we can transfer the data between the components and we can access the data in the component, functional component or class component. And we know that already. How can we access the data in a functional data in a props? How we can access props in functional component? How we can access props in class component? Now the next thing here, if we can check this state. State is also an object. Prop is an object. It will group something together, right? What are all the props we are adding? What are all the attributes we are adding to an element? They are all coming into the component as an object. That's why prop is an object. So prop is a uh, group of key and value pair combinations. Each and every attribute will be wrapped into an object that was transferred to your component. Now state is also object. What is this? State is also an object. Remember, here we have functional component, right? We have functional component and we have class component. Exactly. So this is what exactly the thing. We have functional and we have class component. Okay, right. If you can see, what is a functional component and what is a class component, we know already well. But here the state object, whatever the state we are going to discuss now, that is going to be in the class only. In a functional component, state management will be happen with the help of hooks. So right now I'm not going to talk about this concept hooks. So the state with the class component only we will discuss. So how to manage a state in a functional component, that we can see later, right? So I mean some basic things are required here. Once all these are completed, and finally we can go for functional component and how to manage the state, right? Whatever you can do by using class component, the same we can do by using functional component also, I told you, right? But here the state object right now we are going to discuss, that is going to be available within the class only. If you want to maintain state in the functional component, we have to use the concept called hooks, right? I'm writing one point here. To maintain state of the component, functional component, I don't want to write this, let us write this as a functional component. We can use hooks. In the hooks also we have a concept called use state is a hook. And use state hook we can use. This is the hook, actually predefined hook. So or else simply we can use hooks. So I can write the word, we can use hooks. Actually in this I'm keeping this into bracket. I mean, to maintain the state in the functional component, we will use the use state is a predefined hook that we can. But this is not going to be discussed right now. This we can discuss at the end of the things. I mean, once all the class related stuff completed, then we can go for this hooks concept only. Right now, the state object, remember carefully, to maintain the state of the class component, it's very clear, class component, we can use state object, remember carefully. So first of all, okay, to maintain the state of the class, to maintain the state of the functional component, we can use hooks, to we can use object here. Okay, first of all I have a question, what is a state? That's the thing we have to know, right? Then only we can understand what is meant by state management. Stating, What is the meaning of state management? Some people will call this as a, do you know state management, right? So state, management, state management also we can call. State management. State is also an object, class component. To maintain the state of the class component, we can use state object, right? This is what exactly we are having. Okay, great. So state is a predefined object. The state object is available within the class component only. Keep it in mind. The state object is available within the class component only. That's why I write in like this. Or else let us write this. State object is available, available within the class component only. We cannot access, we cannot access the state object into a functional component, simply says. This is very important, right? That's not possible. Okay, this is the point. Okay, now what is a state? That's the question we have to know, right? What is a state? Exactly. Okay, if you can Google, I think you will find some solution. Okay, but I told you in the class basics of React class basics, before coming to React, we discussed a concept called a class. I told you, I believe you remember or not, the behavior, behavior, behavior or functionality of a class is depends upon the methods and the methods. I told you. Now I'm writing the state of the class depends upon, yes, depends upon, yes, what is this? The state. So there is a word called, I used a word called state. The state of the class depends upon properties, properties, properties or variables, whatever it may be, you can take it. What is meant by state here? Okay, state of the class depends upon properties, behavior or functionality of the class depends upon the methods. That's okay, very clear. But what is a state? A state is nothing but, I'm just writing in my way, a state is nothing but nothing but nothing but saving the data into a variable, into a variable or an object, whatever it may be, and into an variable or object or an array, whatever it may be. It's all about the saving data. Where you want to save the data? I want to save some information in a variable. Simply says, you can write like this now, where x is equal to 100. So what are you doing? The state of the x is 100. So now you can go with where subjects is equal, this is all we know, we seen in the class component, right? Subjects is equal, if it is a class component, where keyword is not required, right? Okay, let me go like this. Subjects is equal to, this is an array, inside of it we can save some data like this HTML and something going to be CSS and something we can see. If it is an object, user equal to, now you can, you know, right? First name, last name, very well. First name, so is going to be Ram, and the second name, this is going to be last name, it is going to be something called like this Sunday. Okay, now, right? This is all the thing we are having. So what are we doing here? X is a variable, subject is a variable, user is a variable, or X is a property, subject is a property, user is a property. In these properties, we are saving data. Na? The saving data is nothing but, what type of data you are saving? I don't bother, but you are saving, you are keeping something that is going to be the thing. So why we will take a variable, Andy? So why, what is the purpose of the variable here? What is the purpose of a property here? Whatever the data we are defining, whatever the data we are defining to the variable, we can access wherever we want within the component. Remember, the state object is available within the class only. That's also one important point, within the class only. We cannot access outside, Andy. Once an object is defined in the class component, that cannot be accessed outside of a class. Okay, right? This is what exactly the concept of the state. What is this? Right, I written like this, and a state is nothing but saving data into a variable or object or array. So this is my own way. Simply you can say saving data, right? This is going to be, let me do one thing, what I want to write here. I just want to ask Google. Let me ask Google what these people will tell us. What is the state in React? I'm just going for it. Let us see what the people are. The state is a plain JavaScript object used by React to represent information about the components of the current situation. So it is also good idea. So whatever the definition we are having here, this is also looks good. Nothing but they're saving some data. So a state is an object that represents the information about the component. That's also great. And information about the component in the sense, what is the information you guys saved in this, right? So there are a lot of definitions are there. Let me go for official website if you have, right? React. Now you can see here I'm going with official website. What these people will say. What does set state do? Oh, these people is explaining you about 1 minute. React state. Okay. I want to go with React state. React components has a built-in state object. The state object is where you can store property values that belongs to the component. This is also good idea, right? It is a built-in object, and React state is a built-in object. So we can check this, right? This is very, very important. This point is also nice. Nothing but we discussed in our own way. A state is nothing but saving data into an object. Okay, as per React, we can go saving data into an object. Okay, this is okay, valid. Otherwise I copied the definition. So this is a predefined object, and state is a built-in object. We don't want to define it. So state is a built-in object. The state object is where you can store property values. Nothing but I told you, just we can save the data, store the data that belongs to the component. This is what exactly the concept of the state, and state is predefined, so we don't want to do anything. But one thing, there is a very big advantage with the state object. Remember, if the state of the component, if the state of the component changes, this point is very, very important, keep it in mind. If the state, see what is the state, actually we can define the state object like this, and this dot state is a predefined. So in this, we can define some key and value pair combination. So here you can take some, it's an object, predefined object, right? First name, I'm going to take something called Rom. So you can take this as a last name and something you are saving inside of it, right? Right, remember carefully. One point I'm telling you, this point is very important. If the state of the component changes, I mean any of the value, I don't know, first name may changes, last name may changes, or both may changes. If the state of the component changes, then the component will re-renders this, observe this word, re-renders the, then component will re-render. What is the meaning of re-render, Andy? For example, now you are displaying, this is the information on the screen. This is the information on the screen. When it is changed, it has to update it automatically na, behind the scenes, right? That is called re-rendering. So we are able to see some data right now. If is there any change found behind the scenes, the data, the change should be appear in the front end, right? That is called re-render. And if the state of the component changes, then component should re-render. Appude kada, then only we can see. Re-render means it will display the output. And see, for example, now on the screen you are able to see 10, and you're able to see 10. Okay, in the behind the scenes some value is updated, 10 plus 10 20. So if I can see this, always what happened behind the scenes we don't understand, right? Behind the scenes some calculation was happened. So now 10 plus it should be updated automatically. 10 should be replaced with 20. That is happening behind the scenes. Re-rendering is nothing but redisplaying the data, and so previously you are seeing some data, but right now some operation was happen. That operation is giving some new value. That value should be displayed again. You don't want to refresh the page. You don't want to refresh, you don't want to reload the page, but it has to display the updated data. That is called re-render. But actually, if it is not React case, for example, there is an operation was happen in the backend scenes. But if you want to see in the front end, you have to reload the page, or if you have to refresh the page. So that is re-rendering is nothing but redisplaying the data, recalling the value, recalling whatever the output we are seeing, whatever the values we are seeing. If there any change found in that, we have to see the changes also now on the fly, right? That is called re-rendering. That is called re-rendering. For example, what I want to tell you here, Google. Okay, you can go here. Can you see here? Some numbers are here. I think you are able to see SSC, Nikki, and HSI. So if you can wait for some time, the values will be re-rendered. Right now, we are able to see some values and 35350. This is the value I'm able to see. Plus 1.51, I'm able to see. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not refreshing. I'm not reloading. But if you can wait for some time, there is something change will be there in the values. They are going to be re-rendered, and so we can see, yeah, they re-rendered now. They re-rendered. Am I refreshing? No, I'm not. See, these calculations will happen behind the scenes. Okay, Ajax, okay, but Ajax purpose is different. This concept is done by using Ajax only, definitely. But re-rendering, okay, that is done by Ajax. By default, React is the same now. It's a default in the sense React applications are used to create single page applications. Single page applications in the sense, so in one page we can do everything without refreshing, without reloading. That will become, so Ajax is also the same job, but React is a full-fledged one. Ajax is a part-time one, simply says, right, whatever it may be. So now you can see exactly. So Ajax, you are saying that's true, okay, that's also valid, but re-rendering in the sense it has to okay, simply what is React re-render? Don't get confused. What is React re-renders? NDERS, React re-renders. We can ask Google. As we already saw before, React re-renders a component when you call the setState function to change the state. What they are saying that if you can change any value, the component will re-rendered ante component will recalled andi. The component again will call automatically. So not on the screen or whatever it may be. If there is any change in this state, the component render method is there now. Re-renders in the sense I will tell you. Maybe you can worried about. Don't worry about it. In a class, we have render method. We have render method, right? Render method for displaying the data. This is what exactly we have the render method in the class component. Everybody, you know, right? For displaying output, there is one method should be the render. So if there is a change in the component, then the component will re-renders. I told you, na, re-renders is nothing but this method will call again. If there any change, this method will call again and again. If you have 100 changes, this method will call 100 times. That is called re-render actually says. This is the render method, and re-rendering means recalling the method if there is a change in the component. Why this method should be recalled, Andy? This method is a responsible person for displaying the JSX. Na? In the JSX only we can see output, right? In the JSX only we can see output. Is there any change in this state object? This should collect that and it has to redisplay the data to you. That is called re-rendering. This method will be called for every change in the state object, Andy. That is called re-renders actually. Okay, maybe earlier I may take you through some different way, I believe, but actual concept is this is guys actually, right? So don't get confused earlier. Now you can understand this. So this is the state and this is going to be the thing point. You can check this. If the state of the component changes, then component will re-renders. This method will be called again and again and again if it is changed, right? Let me show you some practical way so that we will get some clarity. Okay, now I'm going to create one component with a name called state demo.js. This is the file I'm going to create. Okay, RC, it should be class component because React state, now we are working, it is a state object, right? This will be available in the class component only. The state object, okay, now you can write this. I'm writing some h1 tag here, React state. Now you can go to app.js. In the app.js we have so many things. What shall we do? Let us remove everything. Okay, okay. I just want to remove all this stuff from here. Okay, not required. If required, we can call it later. No need to worry. Everything you can remove it. No problem. So we are not passing any data to the React components. So just now we are going to a new concept. This is going to be state. Now you can see. First of all, that component should be imported here. What is the component you created? React state demo, sorry, state state demo is the component we created. Okay, that's all. You can go and refresh the page. Now you can see state demo will be come. Now just refresh the page, React state. This is what we have. So now how do we know whether this is changing or not and all, right? We need to check it, right? Right. State should be defined. Inside this your class component, let me remove this. Sorry. This is called state demo no? Component, state demo component. This is the class component here. Remember, to define the state of the component, we have to take one more predefined method. So render is a predefined method. As of now, render is a predefined method. And this is also a life cycle method of React component. What is the life cycle methods and what is the purpose of them? And we can see later. Render is a method for displaying the output. For render is a person to display the JSX on the screen, nothing but it's an output. Whatever the output you want to display, that should be done through render method only. No other method is a person to display the data to you. It's always a who will display the data on the browser window in a class component, render method only. You can create 100 methods. Those methods are not responsible for displaying the data, only render. Now you can see here, I'm going to write constructor and constructor is again a predefined function. So this is a constructor, and super props means that there is a super class we have, that is nothing but the parent class constructor we can access into the, because of the super keyword, what we can do, super keyword will call the parent class constructor into your class. Okay, that's okay. Whatever the logic we have available in the parent constructor, that is also available into the current constructor. So parent class also having constructor, right? What is the meaning of this dot state actually? We know very well. State, how we can access state, and for example, if we have any value here, for example, where x is equal to 100 or x is equal to an object, how can we access this, Sandy? By in this function, this dot x, na? This is a way of accessing, right? But I am writing something like this, Sandy. You can see this dot state equal to something I written. But did you define the state object anywhere here? No. If this is not in the class, definitely it is available in the parent class. You know, inheritance rule, right? So in the parent class, this concept is predefined. Already it was defined in the parent class, and you don't need to define it. From the parent class, we just inherited it. Okay, now, right. So in this state, what we can do, we can define the information about our component, and what we can do in the state object, simply in the state object, in the state object we can define the information about our component, whatever the information we want to showcase about our component, that we can define. And so define in the sense it's an object now, key and value pair combinations. Now you can see I'm taking rom, sorry, first name key, I'm taking like this. This is going to be rom, and you can take something called last name colon state object is predefined. In this predefined, we can take the values you want. What you want to save in the state, that we can. State is nothing but saving data only. We generally, for saving data, we can take multiple variables, right? But here we are taking one variable as an object. In that object, we are defining the complete state of the component. Always object will group something together, right? Right. Now you can see in this, how can we access the state and so we have render method now. Now you can see console.log of, just I'm printing the state, this dot state, and you have to print like this. Okay, now you can see, if we can go and press F12 in the console, can you see the state object is going to be printed now? Yes, the state object is printed. Now you can expand this. Now can you see, this is the state object. Remember, this state object is defined in the constructor, right? This is the constructor it was defined in the constructor. Hmm? State object will always define in the constructor. Why in the constructor only? Right? Why not in other methods? You may have a question, right? Remember carefully. You know the purpose of constructor, right? Constructor is the function that will call only at the time of object creation. Did you create any object here in the React framework? We don't want to create an object that will taken care by the framework automatically. You don't need to worry about it. I just want to tell you one thing. When your component is inserted into the app.js, this is the class component you inserted in the app.js, means that that will get called automatically and object also created. Remember, the first thing why we will create state object in the constructor only. You know very well, whatever the logics we are writing inside a constructor, they are going to be reusable for each and every method, right? So why? Because your class may contain so many methods. In the so many methods, who will call first? Always constructor will be called first. After that, remaining methods will be called. This is very well, right? I think we got the clarity. And I already told you one thing. Whatever the logics we are writing inside the constructor, that is going to be reusable by each and every method of your class now, right? This is what exactly. That's the reason. If you can define something in the constructor that is available for each and every method of the class by default, you can take some other method, hello, welcome, or test, or something like this. You can take some other method called welcome. So in this also we can call this only this dot state. We can call this dot state here also. We can call this dot state here also. This is also valid state, valid scenario only. There is nothing difference here. Now if you want to call this method, I just want to return this. I'm not going to print anything. Return state, return the state. If you want to call that function, you have to call the welcome function, right? You have to call the welcome, this dot welcome. So how can we access one method into another method? By using this keyword only now. If you can call this dot welcome method, this is returning an object, state object. Now you can see you are not calling directly. Can you see the same information is available from welcome function to render function, right? So this is how we can check the information, guys. Be careful what exactly we are doing here. Okay, now great. So it's the state, and the thing is like this exactly. We can call like this, right? So if you want to access the data here, whatever the data we have in the state, now you can take this as a h4. I'm writing something called welcome to this dot state dot first name. This is what exactly how to take, and this dot state, in this state is an object now. This dot state dot first name, and you can concatenate here. This is the point you should understand. This dot state dot last name. If it is a class or props, this dot props dot first name, this dot props dot last name. But the state is within the class component, within the component only. Whatever the data we have in the state, that we cannot do some other. So now you can check this, and from I will take this dot state dot city. Exactly. Now you can check this. What is going to be happen? We can see the data here. This dot welcome and all from this. So this is a within the component. This is how we can access this data only. So the state object is defined within the class, and here in the class we can access in this way. Now I want to change the state. For example, I want to change this as a age, age. I'm taking this as a 25 something. I'm taking 25 age, and I want to update that age as 30 or 40 or something like this. How can we update? I told you, right? It is going to be re-rendered. Now you can see one thing. Your component will always re-render ante. Re-render ante what I want to write, console.log. Try to see. I'm writing this dot state dot age. I'm printing this value in the console. Can you see? Age is printed now. Age is printed. Now I'm not refreshing, just I'm changing the value 35. I'm saving the file. Can you see, Andy? It is re-rendering. The method is calling again and again. If there is a change in the state, if you are changing any value in the state, it is actually earlier 25 is there, now it is going to print 35. Actually it should be override actually. Okay, but okay, no need to worry. So how we can manage the state, how we can manage the state, how we can implement the state, how we can change the state, how we can update the state, that's what we need to check, and right? As of now, whatever the things we discussed, did you understand? State is available within the class component only. That too we will define in the constructor only. Why we will define in the constructor only? We know constructor logics are globally available for each and every method. If you're defining anything in the constructor, that is going to be available for each and every method of your class, and we can access wherever you want. Not only in render, you can define your own functions also in a class. In every method, we can access the state information, right? Yes, I have seen some question in the chat window. Let me check this. In constructor, is it mandatory for props? Yes, if we can avoid this also, no problem. But sometimes you may get props, right? At this point of time, I'm removing props. I'm removing have any props. Let me check this. So this is optional actually. Even if you want, you can take it. But sometimes some other I just want to do one thing. Here you are having, right? You are getting some data here, right? Now, data equal to I'm taking some data. I'm passing some information to the component. I'm passing some information to the component as a props. If you want to access these props in the constructor, generally if it is a class Andy, directly we can access Andy like this dot state dot props. We don't have anything. This dot state dot props I written. Now you can check this. I'm going to execute the page. You are having an error Andy. Some data. What is this? Some data. Oh, 1 minute. Is there anything wrong? I made it here in app.js. Oh, sorry. It should be a string. You can take some string, guys. I didn't define any variable now. Some data. Okay, now refresh the page. You went there, but you are getting something called undefined. You are not able to access the props data. Can you see? You are not able to access the, sorry, this dot props only. Oh my god, what I am doing here? This dot props only. Okay, now you can check this. Props object is able to print it now data some data. Okay, now data some data. Can you see? Inside the constructor, now I'm going to write this as the thing Andy. So we are able to access props data in the render method. Okay, but inside the constructor can access this dot props. Now you can see it is giving undefined Andy. We are not able to access. So if you want to access props data inside our constructor, definitely we have to pass props as a parameter Andy. Otherwise, props data won't be accessed. Here this is not required because that is within the method, right? Now you can check this. This time you are getting the data, some data, right? Remember, the only thing, whatever the data we are getting to this component as a properties, as an attribute, if you want to access the data within the class component, and within the class component, if you want to access this dot props dot some data, simply you can go with this dot props dot data. That's all only. We don't want to do anything if it is in a render method. But if it is in a constructor, by default a constructor will have a parameter called props and so directly we can access props variable here. We don't want to write this dot props here. For all other methods you have to use this dot props. The only thing, keep it in mind, if you need props information in the constructor, it should be there Andy. We cannot write this dot props here. I believe you can check this. I'm writing this dot props. If we can write, what is going to be happen? Oh, it is giving me the data even though this dot props also. Let me do one thing. I think this is also valid, I believe. Sorry for that, because it may define in the parent class now. We can access like this from parent class directly. We can access this also will work Andy. Sorry, right? So even if we can access, this means it will look into the parent in the component class. Just only props means it will look into the current class only. Exactly, right? So this is going to be the thing Andy. Super is a keyword to call the parent constructor into the child constructor Andy. This is the child class constructor. State demo is a child class constructor. State demo class. Who is the state demo class for the component class? Component class also there is a constructor. To access that constructor into your child constructor, we can use super keyword. In inheritance, I think we discussed it in the class concept. Whenever there is a parent constructor, child class also having constructor, parent class having a constructor. We are using inheritance. Definitely we have to use parent keyword. I'm not using parent constructor. Super keyword. I think it may give you an error, I believe. Must call. They are saying that must call super constructor in the derived class before accessing this or returning from the derived constructor. If you want to access the this keyword, we are using this dot something, right? That's saying that definitely you should add the super keyword. This is the basic condition. This is the basic. By default, you should see. You don't want to do anything, right? What you can do here, let me do one thing. Just write the shortcut key or const. Constructor will be generated automatically. The snippet is generating. I'm not writing it. So constructor function created with the parameter props. Super constructor also inherited. If you want state, you can define the state. Otherwise, you can leave it. If there is no need of state for you, you can like leave it empty also, no problem. But I need some state. That's why I'm taking state object, and you can check this same information will be displayed on the screen. This is what exactly the thing of state. If you can understand this, then I will tell you how can we update the state. How can we update the state? If you can update the state, I told you component will re-render. Component will re-render, Andy. Sorry, earlier I told you something, right? Output will re-render, not whole output actually. The component will re-render. Which component you are changing the data, that component will re-render. How that is going to be re-rendered, that we can see, right? If you can understand this, try to check this, how to define the state, how to do the things. Meanwhile, let me share you these points also in the chart window. Copy these points. Okay, just these are some theoretical points, just copy them, they will be helpful to you.